And hopefully Malcolm will be here at any moment. But until then, I'd like for you all to get up and we're going to do a little hooky pokey. So just away from Malcolm. But some of the, as Dr. Q was saying, this is one of my favorite movies. And I was very excited to meet David when I saw that he was coming. Because he's been in so many movies that are great. This is one of them. But he had a great run from The Omen on up through the early 80s in a lot of wonderful movies. Time After Time is something that I've watched about 90 times when it was on HBO originally. They used to run 6 movies over and over and over for about 6 months at a time. So I became very familiar with it from that. But I think maybe what we'll do is go ahead and get things started, and hopefully Malcolm will be here. So, on the poster for the film, the tagline for it says, "Imagine a scientific genius named H.G. Wells stalks a criminal genius named Jack the Ripper across time itself in the most ingenious thriller of our time," which I truly believe it was. Released in 1979, Time After Time, Mark Nicholas Meyers directing and viewed. I'm sure that you guys are very familiar with Nicholas Meyers' work from the Star Trek films. Star Trek 2, Star Trek 1, Star Trek 6, all of those that he did. But this was the first one that he ever directed. It has become a real rarity in modern film. It's a movie that assumes its audience is smart enough to follow where it leads without having everything explained and everything put in front of them pre-digested. It's a science fiction thriller with a romantic heart. And the film crackles with Meyers' incredible dialogue and the prodigious performance of its amazing cast. Yes. The film crackles with Meyers' incredible dialogue and the prodigious performances of its amazing cast. And until we get Malcolm here, I hope you'll join me in welcoming Mr. David Warner, who stars Dr. John.
Embarrassing. I don't know where Malcolm is. We came from another hotel and there's lots of people in the street. The traffic is terrible. We came separately. I don't understand why. So I'm in the hot seat, aren't I? And then of course when he arrives, you'll go bananas. Okay.
So until he arrives, let's talk a bit about the film. You had just done, I believe, Airport 79.
Oh, yeah. I think so. I can't remember.
One of a cast of millions in that, as those were. How did the part of John Leslie Stevenson come to you from Time After Time?
Yeah, that's a strange question. No, I mean, I think I was seen by Nicholas Meyer and the producer in some other work. I don't know, maybe The Omen or one of those films that, you know, sort of were quite popular at the time.
Right.
I think we made Time After Time after The Omen, yeah. But I can tell you one thing, who Warner Brothers really wanted to play Stevenson, Jack the Ripper was, I'll give you 10 guesses, no you won't get it, Mick Jagger. There was a big fight between, they wanted Mick Jagger, and there was a big fight between Herb Jaffe, the producer, and Nick Meyer, and fortunately for me, I got it, you know, which was great, but they did want Mick Jagger, can you imagine that?
I think that Nick Meyer has said that he just didn't see Mick Jagger as a high street doctor or surgeon. He didn't think he could pull that off.
But he could pull Jack the Ripper off, I imagine. But not a surgeon. I didn't know that, you know. I didn't.
Jack the Ripper, although we don't obviously know who he really was, is based on a factual. Did you do any sort of research?
Not a jot. There's no point. You know, there's a script there and somebody called Jack the Ripper and that's it. I'm not very good at doing research. Maybe that shows in some of the stuff I've done. But, you know, how do you research? I don't want to talk about other movies. We are time after time. But how do you research?
We have a little time to kill. So.
Oh, he's here, thank God. Ladies and gentlemen.
Let's just go ahead and bring out Malcolm McDowell.
Joke about him finally getting him, you know, years after the movie.
Thanks for coming, Malcolm.
Yes, there's a lot of traffic.
I said that, yeah, I mean, that's my excuse too.
Hello, David, how are you?
You're fine, darling.
Have you guys been on a panel together and talked about time after time since...
No, thank God.
No, absolutely.
Jesus, what's there to say?
We'll find out, won't we? I had been asking David about how the part and time after time came to him. You had just finished doing a little movie called Caligula.
Yes, I was in, when this came out, this movie, what was it, 1980, I was in the best, or the top 10 movies, which was Time After Time, and the worst in the same year. The other one was Caligula. So I think that's quite a record. I'm very proud of it.
And we wanted to maybe talk to you a little bit about how the part came to you, because honestly, when I saw the original ads for it, and said Malcolm McDowell and Jack the Ripper and Nick Shields, I was like, oh, Malcolm's playing Jack the Ripper.
Yes, well, this is, thank God you're not the head of a studio. No, of course one would expect me to play that part, probably. But, of course, as David will attest, we're all actors and we all have, you know, various strings to our bow. And I was thrilled to be offered the part of H.G. Wells, actually, because I'd been doing this movie for a year in Rome, which is not bad, except the movie was Caligula, which was an adventure all in itself. And I think I've spoken about that here, so I won't go into that anymore. But I was thrilled when David, you know, when he was cast as Jack the Ripper, because, and I'm going to embarrass him now, but I've always been a tremendous admirer of his work. I think he's one of our great actors in England. And yes, you can. And I think, like all really tremendously talented artists, that, you know, he's not an obvious actor. He hides his craft brilliantly well. And he never appears to be acting. Now that, of course, is the mark of a really great actor. And for the ones that don't really know, of course, they like to see people chewing scenery. And, you know, I've watched him. Well, I was walk-on in his Hamlet, you know, when David was a huge star. And,
I knew you'd start there. Because you see what happened, I was just for about 15 minutes. And then the whole thing changes. And I'm very glad too, by the way.
No, yeah, sure. The thing was that David was, you know, and we're speaking of this, we're filling in the background of our relationship and where we come from. You know, the fact that we are friends and have been for 50 years, which is a tremendous achievement in itself, that we're still upright, basically. But, you know, to be at Stratford as a kid, you know, was, David was a kid himself, but, you know, he was thrust into the limelight playing this, you know, this sort of new kind of way of doing Shakespeare or whatever it was, I don't know, but it was the sort of post-Beatles era, and he was all tied into that by the press, of course. I'm sure it was a shock to him, oh my God. But, you know, he had throngs of young girls waiting outside the stage door. And because he and I were sort of friends, even though I was a lowly fellow, David was always very nice to me and always had that sort of twinkle in his eye. And so I used to follow him out of the stage door and inquire which of these young girls, they weren't that young, would he like to have a drink with, you know, after the show. And by the way, darling, who's your friend? So thank you for that, David. Is
that how you met your first wife?
No, darling, no. Good God, no. Don't ruin it for me. Jesus, is this alcoholic?
By the way, you must say, who else was in that cast?
Which one?
Hamlet.
Oh, yes, go.
You tell, who else was in it?
Well, Estelle Kohler.
No, I meant another guy. A well-known Star Trek guy.
Oh, you mean, oh yes! Bill Shatner was in it. Oh, Baldy! Oh, God, yes! Well, as I like to say, he was what, 23? He was playing old men even then.
Sir Patrick Stewart, we're talking
about. Oh, I beg your pardon. It's Jennifer, please.
He had a slightly bigger role than you did.
Oh, he did? What did he play?
I can't remember, love, it was so small.
But it was a brilliant play.
No, he was wonderful, actually. And so are you, darling.
Yes.
Enough of that. Should we be getting back to Time After Time?
Oh, who gives a rat?
Oh, right.
Well, you had a very good time on that movie, didn't you?
What?
On
Which
Time
film?
After Time.
Oh, yes. Oh, by the way.
Yeah.
I met a few. We haven't met for about 5 years, to be honest. Until
yes.
This is a big event here. And so, but I do get messages from Malcolm via friends. Now, when we were making, I want to know. He uses a phrase about when we were working together on Time After Time, and I want you to explain. He's told people that I was his wing man. And I want to know what that means.
Just explained it.
No,
I've just explained it. You know what it is? You come out of the stage door, all the girls are screaming, and I go...
No, I'm talking about Time After Time.
No, I don't give a rat's about Time After Time.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No. You got me into a lot of trouble on that damn movie.
You did it all yourself.
No, of course, Time After Time means different things to me as they do to him. To me, of course, because I did that movie, I basically got 2 children from that. Because, of course, I married Mary Steenburgen, who was brilliant in the movie, and a beautiful... Thank you. I'll tell her you applauded her. When I speak to her next year. Yes.
Malcolm, if you had gotten any souvenirs from the set besides Mary Steenburgen?
Really, there was no other souvenir to be had. But we were very quiet about it, except David claims to have known.
No, I did. That's the whole point. Would you? This is where. Look, we don't want to go into this. It's a very private thing here.
No,
we don't want to go into it. So no. Well, I mean, I'm getting quite upset about this.
Anyway, it was kind
I mean, it was pure Hollywood, wasn't it, love?
Oh.
But it was in San Francisco.
It was lovely, actually.
Yes, I know.
I love that city. It's a beautiful city. And, of course, we had Nick Meyer directing, and you're a friend of Nick, are you?
I worked with him afterwards, yeah.
What did you do?
Star Trek 6.
Oh, yes.
But then this is about Time After Time, not about my Star Trek career.
But
you have a Star Trek career.
Talk about, well, I'm the one who killed Kirk, darling.
Were you being directed by him? Is that what happened?
Oh, by Shatner?
Yeah.
Everybody's directed by Shatner. What's new about that?
I can't hear you, Malcolm.
But no, listen, there's nothing I wouldn't say in front of him. I love the old Podge. No, he's a sweetheart. Come on. I mean, he's 82. I think he's the most remarkable actor. I really do. He's had an incredible career, and he's had, you know, Patrick Stewart is the one that should get down on his knees and thank him, because it was rumored they were getting $10 or $12 million for Star Trek the movie, and it was all really because of Shatner and Leonard, who really kept that franchise going, you know, and they were brilliant in it. They really were. And you know, you may be interested. Are we going to talk about this?
No, it's time after time.
Right, go on then. You talk about it. I've had enough. I'm talking
no.
all the time. You're just sitting there making the odd comment. Tell us a story. I mean,
Well, I can't remember it.
no.
It's a long time ago.
It's been a while.
You better take over.
I have, oh, good, thank you. I do have a couple of questions written down. And
Oh, good, good. Are these your questions?
yes.
Oh, this is not good. God,
Like a
man.
match?
Jesus. Will and Testament there.
I have to be remembered for something, being your second fiddle in 2 days. So, I wanted to ask you, though, about, and I asked David before you got here.
Oh, thank you for waiting, by the way.
They were getting restless.
Oh, what, the natives?
About preparing to play H.G. Wells.
Yes.
And if you've done any research, I think that you've talked about, you found a recording of his voice at some point.
I didn't find it. I called the BBC archives, and I asked them if they had any recordings of H.G. Wells. I thought, normally I don't do research like that. It's a very American sort of method thing. But am I right, David?
Well, I would say we don't do too much research, do we? That's the answer.
No.
Whether it's American or not, I don't want to go.
Anyway, oh well, Daniel Day-Lewis, Jesus, he lives with a musket, so you know. And what did he do when he played in My Left Foot? A whole year of dribbling.
He won 3 Oscars. I should, you know, be quiet about that.
Oh yeah, well, if that's the way to do it, I suppose. Anyway, what were we saying?
Do you prepare? Do you do research?
Oh, yes, thank you. So, Carl, your memory's good.
I'm younger than you.
Not much, dear. Are you? No. Look at Carl, Jesus. Anyway, they sent a recording of H.G. Wells from a radio interview in 1928. And I swear I've told this story, some boring old story. Anyway, I put the record on in great anticipation, thinking this character I was about to play is going to reveal itself. And from the crackling of this radio interview on a 78 recording came this southeast London high-pitched whine. So H.G. Wells, he talked like that. And I thought, how the fuck am I going to do that? What the hell is he playing at? So I decided just to play him with my normal English accent.
You mentioned earlier San Francisco and how much you like the town. It really was kind of a character in the film with you guys. There was so many iconic locations there.
Yes, I think they squeezed most of them in. And a memorable one, well, we had a great chase sequence, as I remember, and the whole night we shot outside the Rotunda, what's it called? The Fine Arts building.
Palace of Fine Arts.
Thank you. The Palace of Fine Arts. To give it a... anyway, so we were running around all over the place, weren't we? Yes.
Certainly was.
I was running after Mary all over the place, as I remember. That's a different story.
Now, this is where I come in.
Oh, Christ! I knew we couldn't keep him down for long.
No, we won't go there.
Oh, no, go
No,
on.
no. No.
Okay. I think they want to hear about your character. Jack the Ripper.
No, we discussed that. I didn't do any research. And it's all instinct. And, it's all in the script and the direction.
You hope.
Well, I mean, that's not for me to judge. I mean, they're all sitting here having seen it, and I assumed enjoyed it. So, I don't want to get into an argument with you about it. All right?
I love the film. It's
No, so good. So that's
Yeah. No. Good God, man! If we made a few more time after times, we'd have a sparkling career, would we not?
yes, because it was all pretty downhill.
From there on in.
No, seriously, what happens in that? Actually, seriously, yeah, you can make a film like Time After Time, in which I'm really, really proud to have been in, and also working with Malcolm and Nick Meyer and Mary and everything.
Yeah,
and I think it is rather a special movie. But at the time, it really didn't take off, did it? I mean, it's a cult movie now. You all love it, I assume. But at the time, it didn't really hit.
No, it was a disaster.
It was a disaster.
And you know, I was really quite worried about why it was, and I asked to see the studio, the questionnaire that they put out for their marketing, because I thought they marketed the film very badly, because they made it a sort of chase movie about Jack the Ripper and, you know, being chased, which I thought was a misrepresentation of the film. So when I read these things that the studio had prepared for the public, like as yourself, to fill in, they said things like, "Have you ever heard of H.G. Wells?" No. "Have you ever heard of Jack the Ripper?" Yes. Right. So this is a Jack the Ripper movie. Now, this is insane because, of course, it's a very important element, but the whole film is not a chase movie. And it's not a gory movie in any way, so Jack the Ripper fans would go to see the movie and be disappointed. It's a love story, and that's how they should have sold the movie. And because they didn't do that, the thing fell flat on its face. And it was really sad because I saw it with a couple of audiences at the time, and the theatre was jam-packed, and the audiences absolutely loved that movie. I mean, and when it didn't take off, I was absolutely amazed that they'd screwed it up. But, you know, they do it all the time. So what else is new? You know?
Yeah, and that's the sound. But it's interesting because, I mean, we've done other movies since which also didn't do too well at the box office at the time, but have kind of become cult movies.
Yes,
the
thank
movies
you.
that people do remember, and I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, yes, well, you
but
know.
not commercial box office, which, you know, makes you into a $20 million man or whatever.
Yes.
In my last will and testament here, as Malcolm pointed out,
Great, yes.
I made a note that I think is pertinent.
By the way, how old are you? It's nice to see you again. It's been 4 years. Good God, and you're still sat here asking questions.
I know. They never let me go. My note is about what I believe the movie is, and I think it's essentially a story of optimism versus cynicism acted out by two men outside the society they were reflecting on. And I wanted to ask you both. You shed in here, man. Ask you both what message from this film still resounds with you. The one with me is your line of the first man to raise a fist is the man who's run out of ideas.
Oh, I'll go for that. He's quoting lines. I never remember lines from him.
I wanted to ask what...
Yeah, no, but what was his line?
The first man who raises a fist is the man who's run out of ideas.
Okay. I suppose mine was clicking the old on the television in the hotel.
It's a great scene. That's a great scene.
Saying, was it 100 years ago, 90 years ago, I was a freak watching all the violence going on. today I'm an amateur.
Oh my God, the man knows his part. Oh yes, that's it.
Nick Meyer. Yes.
I want to go right up on the
Okay.
You guys are fine.
Good. Is that why?
We're professionals.
Is that why? Oh, look at Sherlock Holmes.
In Nick Meyer's book,
Yes.
View from the Bridge, he said making Time After Time was the most fun I've ever had in the daytime. Would you guys agree with that? Was it that fun all the time, making the film? Clearly there's a story he wants you to tell.
Well, of course, you know, I had a great time.
But yes, but talk about filming, though.
Oh, that? Oh, were we filming?
Not that, no.
You know, listen, I think it's very evident from the movie how, you know, my relationship with Mary was continuing nicely. No, I think we had a great time shooting it, you know, and for me it was really nice to have David, you know, cast. Oh, by the way, I heard that you are putting it around that the first casting idea was Mick Jagger.
For me?
Yeah,
Oh,
for you,
yeah.
for you.
Yeah, that's what I was told.
Jesus, well, what happened? Mick Jagger? David Warner? What happened?
I promise you that's true.
No, no, come on, darling. Mick Jagger could act himself out of a paper bag. Can you imagine?
That's why he didn't play the part.
Oh,
Well, there you are. No,
did he do a reading or something?
I wasn't there. No, seriously, that's
Really? Is
Yeah,
that
Warner
true?
Brothers wanted me to. I told them.
Oh, you told him already. Yeah, well, I should get here earlier. Well, of course, he's told all his stories now about this film. So.
Oh no, I haven't, but I'm not going to do so.
Oh, go on, let loose. Give it a go.
Come on.
Yeah, woo, woo! Woo!
All right, don't. No, we had a lot of fun. Got any more questions? It was great fun, and you know, and Nick, I think it was his first film as a director. I think he did a very good job. You know.
Yeah, I mean, Nick said I remember on the very first day of shooting, he did say, look, to the crew and to us, he said, look, guys, I've never made a movie before. This is my first directorial effort. And he said, so if there's anything you want to advise me to do or anything that you can help me with, please do so. Which I thought was a great way of just relaxing everybody and say, if he makes a mistake, he didn't mind somebody telling him. There are some first-time directors who think they know it all and sometimes make great mistakes. At least Nick did that. He did say, please give me ideas, which I admired him for, you know.
Were there any scenes that you guys maybe cut or that were in the script that never made it to being filmed that you wish had stayed in the movie?
Well, there always are, but I can't remember what they were now.
No, same here, I can't remember. I mean, some are devastating when you make a movie and your favourite scene just isn't there. But I don't remember that happening anymore.
No, I don't think. I think the only things that were really changed were things to do with plot about, you know, why wouldn't she wake up or something? Why would she oversleep? Or why would she take tranquilizers at a time like this when the moon was on power? Which I have to say is stretching it a little far, but there you are. You know, as my friend Lindsay Anderson would say, is, oh yes, he's pretty bad. He would say, well, Malcolm, do you believe that the pumpkin turns into a carriage? And of course, you do believe it because it's a fairy story and that is what you believe. So, and that's the way that we're asking people to suspend belief, I think, in the plot points in Time After Time. But, you know, I don't think it's a big deal. I think, and you know, there are some beautiful scenes in it. My favourites being, I think, you know, going to McDonald's, that famous Scottish restaurant. And maybe the scene at the end I love too, and the scene with you in the Palace of Fine Arts.
Right, well, getting into the time machine and all that.
Yeah, running into that, it's great. Yeah.
But I agree with you that the film is a love story.
Yes.
And the whole point of Jack the Ripper is to consolidate these two people getting together.
That's it,
and
exactly.
That's, you know, as I say, it was missold, as you just said. But
which is a great shame.
Wonderful love story.
Mm. It is.
Yeah.
And especially a man coming from another era. A man who was one of the first, well, he was a socialist and, you know, believed in equality for women at a time in the Edwardian era when that was not a popular belief. I mean, you know, the suffragettes and all the rest of it, women had to fight for their rights even to vote, you know, and same in America. I know it's the same story, but so H.G. Wells was a visionary in a sense. You know, he was our Ray Bradbury or our Jules Verne, the English Jules Verne. I think it's the closest thing you can say to H.G. Wells in terms of who he was and his importance. You know, he was a very extraordinary man and quite a visionary and wrote some wonderfully visionary books. And well, I was sitting in Rome when I got the script of Time After Time, wearing just a diaper. I was about to go out and do the business with a bride and the groom. And thank God I read Time After Time and I realized I wasn't a porno actor. I was a real actor and I had something to look forward to.
Woo!
That's great. I tell you what, why don't we go ahead and take some questions from the audience. We've got a microphone set up over here, I believe. So if anybody in the audience has questions for Malcolm or David, please come on up. And
yes, only intelligent ones, please. Okay, well, nobody there, so...
Hi, Malcolm.
Hello.
This is off topic, but is Franklin and Bash going to be renewed?
I don't know, darling. Why, do you know something?
No.
I'm in a show called Franklin and Bash.
yeah!
I know you don't know anything.
No, it's true.
I just heard that they haven't made a decision.
They haven't made a decision, but if you all write in, maybe that will help it. I don't know. I think we're on the cusp of being cancelled.
Do you enjoy
I don't know. I love it. Of course, I have great fun.
it?
Yeah.
It shows.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks for mentioning that. Okay.
Hi, Malcolm. Could you compare what it was like working on Time After Time to working under Kubrick?
Well, do we have a week? Well, look, Kubrick, as we all know, was an extraordinary director. I mean, you know, I was a very young actor and thrilled to be working with such a great man. You know, he was a great intellect, and what sets Kubrick